Yeah, hello and welcome back to the new lecture over here. And here we are going to see how we can use a Riverpod to read the provider from our main.d.dot file. So in the main.d.dot file, we basically don't have access to the ref object, which is the part of the Riverpod. And if you want to read some provider, we need to have access to the ref, right? Ref.read or the ref.watch. But in the main.d.dot file, like here, we don't have access to that particular Riverpod ref object. So how we can read it is we can use the container or the provider container. So if I want to read this, I have this particular file which provides me the instance of the env reader that I have, and I need this one to be inside my the main file over here, where I don't have access to the ref object. So how we can do that one is I can create a final, let's say a container, and T-A-I-N-E-R container, T-A-I-N-E-R, right? And which is equals to the provider container that we can get. And if you want to override some of the provider, you can just override the container over here. And what we will do over here is once we have the, I guess the spelling is not correct, UNTAINER container, so that should be the better one. Once we have the container, so what we will do is I need to read that env reader file. So I will just go over here and create the env reader. So let's say env reader, which is of equals to, let's say container dot I have access to the read over here, and with this I can read the env reader provider, that is my provider. And after that I can access the env reader, so I will just make it as a bit uppercase, so I can just call the functionality, so which is my, let's say, the get environment name over here, and then that should be fine. So here I need to provide the this flavor, so let me provide the flavor. Now once I have this, this will give me the file name or the string of the file name, so I need to have stored it in some variable. So let's say a file name, or the, I can just say env a file. And once I have that, now I can use the .env or .env dot the I can just get the load the file. So I need to load the file from the file name and the env file, and this is a asynchronous function, so I need to make it as the await over here, await. Okay, so that should be fine. So in this way now we are able to call the container.read and read the provider in our main.dr file, where we don't have access to the ref object. And after that, what we have to do is we have to use the uncontrolled provider scope. Normally you will use a provider scope over here, right? But once we use a container or the provider container, we have to use the uncontrolled provider scope to pass in the container that we have created. So let's pass in that one, and then let's go and copy this section and pass it over here, and just remove this section, and that should be fine. So now we have provided our the provider scope as the uncontrolled provider scope, and which takes the parameter of the provider container which we have created over here. And if you read the documentation, it can just copy the documentation from here and just paste it over here. So we said an object that stores in state of the providers, and also allows the overriding of the behavior of the specific provider. Currently we are not overriding anything, but this is an object that stores the states. And here it says that the expose the provider container to the widget tree, and you can just paste it over here. So in this way it's quite similar to the provider scope. and you can go and read the documentation more about the uncontrolled provider scope and the provider container in the Riverpod documentation. But I hope you got an idea to how to use the provider container and uncontrolled provider scope if you don't have access to that particular ref object in your main.dot file, because in the main.dot file we need to load some of the configuration before our app get started. So it's a good place to read the provider and use the provider container to read some of the providers that we are getting from the Riverpod. So hope you understand, and that's all, and see you guys again.